Picture this. It's 1924, Chicago. Two young men who have it all, genius, wealth, a world of privilege, decide to commit the perfect murder. Why? Because they believed they were above the law, like modern-day supermen. But what starts as a quest for a flawless crime quickly spirals into one of the most infamous cases of the 20th century.
So who were these guys? I mean, let's take a look. On one side, you have Nathan Leopold. This guy was a certified prodigy, reportedly speaking his first words at just 4 months old. By his late teens, he's already a published bird expert and a University of Chicago graduate with his eye on Harvard Law. And his partner? That's Richard Loeb. He's the charismatic son of a Sears vice president, good-looking, popular, and the youngest person to ever graduate from the University of Michigan. Seriously, on paper, these two had absolutely limitless futures ahead of them.
Okay, so that's the big question, right? What could possibly drive two young men with everything to lose to commit murder? Well, the answer is kind of wild. It lies in this twisted philosophy that became the entire engine for their crime.
Leopold, especially, got completely obsessed with this radical misreading of the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche and his idea of the Übermensch, or the Superman. He convinced himself, and Loeb, that they were these superior, transcendent individuals. Their intellect was so great, he thought, that it put them above the normal rules of society. The ethics that you and I live by, they just didn't apply to them.
And you can see it right here, in his own words. This is from a letter Leopold actually wrote to Loeb, and it lays out his thinking perfectly. This wasn't just some intellectual game for them. It was a deeply held belief. They truly thought they were better than everyone else. And because of that, they were exempt from the laws that govern, the rest of us mere mortals.
So this shared delusion, it became their ultimate mission. They decided that the best way to express their superiority was to commit a perfect crime. A kidnapping and murder so brilliantly executed that it would totally stump the police and prove their genius to the entire world.
But, as we're about to see, for all their so-called meticulous planning, their perfect crime was anything but.
They spent 7 months working out the details. They even stole a typewriter just to write a ransom note. Then, on May 21st, 1924, they picked their victim, 14-year-old Bobby Franks, who was Loeb's neighbor and even his second cousin. After killing him in the car with a chisel, they drove to a remote area, poured acid on his face to hide his identity, and dumped his body. Their whole complex ransom plan was ready to go, but it completely fell apart almost immediately when the body was discovered the very next morning.
And for all that planning, their brilliant crime unraveled because of one single tiny mistake. A pair of eyeglasses was found near the body. Now, the prescription was common, but the hinge on the frame, it was incredibly rare. In fact, that specific type of hinge had been sold to only 3 people in the entire city of Chicago. And you guessed it, one of them was Nathan Leopold. When police brought him in, his alibi crumbled, and within just 10 days, both he and Loeb confessed to everything.
And with those confessions, the case exploded. It became a national media circus, immediately nicknamed the trial of the century. So their wealthy families hired the most famous defense attorney in America, the legendary Clarence Darrow, and his legal strategy was audacious, to say the least. He knew that any jury would almost certainly send them to the gallows, so Darrow did the unthinkable. He had them plead guilty. It was a masterstroke, really. It completely shifted the focus from whether they were guilty to a sentencing hearing in front of a single judge. Darrow's goal here was simple: save his clients from being hanged. See, he was a fierce opponent of capital punishment, and he used this case as his platform. For 8 hours, he delivered one of the most famous speeches of his entire career, arguing not just about Leopold and Loeb's youth, but attacking the entire idea of state-sanctioned killing itself. And you know what? Darrow's incredible plea worked. Well, at least partially. He persuaded the judge to spare their lives.
The verdict came down on September 10th, 1924. For the murder, they each got life in prison. And for the kidnapping, they got an extra 99 years tacked on. So they escaped execution, but they were expected to spend the rest of their natural lives behind bars. But from this point on, their paths couldn't have been more different. Richard Loeb was killed in prison by another inmate in 1936, only 12 years into his sentence. Nathan Leopold, on the other hand, became a model prisoner, and after 33 years, he was actually granted parole in 1958. He moved to Puerto Rico, he got married, earned a master's degree, and he eventually died a free man at the age of 66. So even now, a full century later, this case continues to fascinate and disturb us. The real question is, why? Why does this story still have such a powerful grip on our collective imagination? I think it's because the story taps into one of our deepest fears about the nature of evil. This idea that brilliance can be paired not with goodness, but with a terrifying lack of empathy. That's endlessly compelling. You can see its influence everywhere, from Alfred Hitchcock's classic film Rope all the way to recent references in shows like Better Call Saul. The case has become a kind of cultural shorthand for intellectual arrogance that curdles into something truly monstrous. Ultimately, the case just leaves us with this haunting question. It's a chilling reminder of the terrifying potential that can lie dormant behind a veil of genius and privilege. And it really forces us to ask ourselves, what's the line that separates a great mind from a moral one?